Dude, that book
Ty
was
starts
so
complaining
good.
about yeah, you know what? It's a lot better than this book. So.
In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Catherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Chris.
And we are the Anidorks. These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. And now it's chapter 18, and X is going, allergy. You acquired some animal you're allergic to. It happens sometimes.
But let's talk about how disjointed this is.
Yeah.
We're in a totally different climate. We're back. I assume we're at the barn.
Yeah, we're in the woods.
Where the hell are we?
We're in the safety of the woods out beyond Cassie's farm. And Axe is in
so we're like
Andalite morph. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. So just snap back to reality. Miranda, take it away.
And so she's like, what? This is a thing? I'm allergic to something specific? And Cassie's like, well, the crocodile's the last thing you acquired, so it's probably the crocodile. And then they're just like, oh, okay, I guess that's, like, normal. And Axe is like, yeah, so you just lose some of the control. It's not, because she's like, because I can still kind of morph. And he's like, no, it's just like, sort of like sneezing. But he doesn't know the word for sneezing, so he has to describe sneezing.
Yeah, and in this moment where they're describing this whole thing, and Axe is kind of like very weakly describing this ailment that Rachel's experiencing, because he's not giving a lot of detail. Like, describing it as an allergy, it's like, does this kid just need to take a fucking Claritin and they're fine? But then in the background, Tobias is hunting this whole time.
That's true.
Which just is a neat Calvin and Hobbes. Like, when they're getting into the... Calvin and Hobbes will do comics where they're having like a philosophical discussion while they're getting into a wagon and careening down a hill. It feels like that. It feels like... spinning plates. I don't know why they're doing it, but it's
we don't
kind
actually
of
get it a lot in these books. Like, it's simultaneous action like this, like things happening in parallel, like, but it's a fun thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think
it's really
it felt like they maybe were worried that it was going to be too much of an info dump of them explaining mechanics. And so they're like,
because they've always been so concerned about doing
that. Right, exactly, yeah.
But this is where we learn that what the burping is. Axe is like, how do I explain this? Let me just tell you what we call it. At least it happens to Andalites with morphing. We call it the Hereth Illant.
Hereth Illant?
Illant.
Yeah.
Hereth Illant.
Something like that.
And then Cassie says, that sounds poetic. And I imagine a nice pause here where Axe is thinking about how to respond. He's like, well, a literal translation would be something like burping DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Which he goes on to say they chose burping because they don't have words like spitting out or vomiting up because they don't have mouths. But where do they burp from?
I read that slightly differently. Although I like where you're going with this and want to subscribe to your newsletter, I thought he was doing the thing where he was saying other things that they wouldn't have gotten to.
Okay.
Like,
he neglects to mention farting.
We call it this, which means,
right. Which farting would happen from a perfectly normal butthole in a perfectly normal place, as we've come to understand it. Right.
Yeah. They ask, how do you do this? How do you do this like Hereth Illant? And he explains the offending DNA will eventually be expelled from your system. You can't control when it happens. You just have to be careful, especially since this crocodile is a dangerous creature.
And she's like, sounds easy.
Yeah. And he's like, it isn't easy. You basically have to morph the animal while you retain your own body. You have to create a whole living animal out of the excess matter floating in zero space.
Now, this is one of the most mind-blowing assertions of this book, and here's the thing. It is not the only one.
Yeah.
I just want to point that out, that this is like, now we're talking about having acquired the DNA, stored, like, what we are learning is that our initial obnoxious theory about having morphs splintering off from you into Z space, the mass has to go somewhere, it has to be somewhere, and this technology is somehow creating it. Now, I don't fucking understand it. I really don't, because it's like that energy has to come from somewhere and I just don't understand it. But what I do really find mind-blowing here is just what he's saying is she will create a crocodile.
Yeah.
She's going to pull the crocodile from the mass
out of Z
inside
space.
Z space.
And she
make
created
a whole crocodile in real life.
She created, yes. And there's no laws of conservation of energy. There's no, oh, well, she was in morph, so her energy went somewhere else. She is now in a position to create a crocodile.
Yeah.
And the energy has to go somewhere.
She's strictly adding matter to herself, not morphing.
Right.
But they are initially connected, and then she is severing that connection.
Mm-hmm. And I think if we are to hold on to conservation of energy as a concept, something must be, like, we just learned something about how energy is being shuffled around by this technology. I don't know what it is yet. I don't need to speculate about it right here, but I feel like we're going to come back to it in a mini-sode or something.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense given that the original animal exists. Like, we've now not just said, oh, you can turn into that animal. You can literally clone it permanently, apparently.
Yes, so like Axe has a Jake morph. He could make a Jake doppelganger. He could introduce another Jake to the world. Yeah.
It would be as simple as him being allergic to Jake, which, by God, must be recreatable.
So what I was just going to ask is, you think that in order to do this, you necessarily have to be allergic to them, but it seemed...
I was sort of joking. I was just saying, if it's as simple as being allergic, then there has to be another way to attack it, right? If being... The way that I'm thinking of it is, like, if being allergic allows you to access the cloning part of this, then
you would just have to trick...
There must be another
your
way.
body into expelling that matter.
Something like, I don't know. I don't know that we have anything that strictly, well, cortisol, there are stress hormones and things that are released, histamine. Your body's response to an allergy does not have to necessarily be provoked by an allergy. You could stimulate those using other means.
Right.
You could artificially introduce large amounts of histamine into the body, and that would then behave like it had an allergy.
Which, like, I don't know.
And that's
what
just
all
for
the
like a human allergy, obviously, and I don't know how these allergies work.
But like, imagine if they had a shot that now this is a ridiculous premise, but now we finally get to the end of Cassie's save all the animals thing, and it doesn't even have to be gross because Cassie can just clone animals. Yeah, it's limited in the DNA pool, but she can go touch that last rhino or whatever. Then you shoot whatever causes the anaphylactic response or whatever, and she shits out, so to speak, a new endangered elephant or rhino. Fuck.
I don't know that she could change the sex, but you could definitely make another breeding male where there's only one, and just making him able to be in two places at one time could do a lot for a species.
Or like, think about just the fact that any breeding male, as it were, could die at any moment.
Yeah.
Like, you've just given more chance for something to happen. It's interesting, but it's a wild assertion, and they're leaving it in the realm of sickness as a mystery. And I think that that's okay from the book's perspective. And frankly, it's wise because I'm just saying, like, there'd be money behind this. If this were happening in America, they'd be like, we need to figure out how to clone.
And my impression from how people talk about these books is that the first books introduce a lot of things. And it actually does seem like, just from the way that, like, in our emails and what I've seen on Reddit, the books will, especially because they're just churning through 14 books a year, I think is what we read. They do start swooping back to some of the things, like the implications of what the earlier books produced, because they're just like, well, we said this one thing in book 12. Maybe that would be interesting to go back to that. So I do think there's a chance we'll start to see.
Totally. Yeah. I find it really riveting. So. Yeah. Like, I'm the reason why I'm so hung up on it is just like, it's so funny because, like, you know, we talked about how this book might be a shorter book, about how there might not be that much there. And it is granted a silly book, but in its off-the-cuff nature, it just broached so many fun topics.
Yeah.
It's seemingly wittingly, but also like somewhat masterfully. It was just like, oh, thank God they started, it's like, okay, let's.
Yeah.
So, in this whole conversation about this, we move right on to go that she can't control when it starts, but you'll know and you'll have to do it when it happens. But until then, you can control some of the allergy symptoms by like keeping your emotions in check.
Yes.
And so then they start talking to her about what emotions she was feeling at each of these times accidentally morphed.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And she thinks back to when she was scrolling around.
Because she's like, obviously in Chapman's office, I was like nervous, like, and afraid. And then
But then what was happening when I was looking at Jeremy Jason McColl's personal website with all those hot pictures of him? What was happening
Well,
then?
she tries to hide it, but she's already told Cassie. And so Cassie rats her out because they're like, what were you doing the first time? She was like, I don't recall. And like,
and Cassie was like, I think you were looking at porn or something. Or like, you were on some website called something hub or something.
Yeah, Cassie's like, Rachel, you were pulling up pictures of Jeremy Jason off the internet, which I didn't realize was an option that we could just say Jeremy Jason. And so she's like,
Cassie does that a lot.
Why would that cause an emotional response in me? And Marco starts going, it was love, the deadly, dangerous emotion of puppy love. Rachel was overcome by attraction, by desire, by intense, uncontrollable tiger beat passion. And then Rachel tries to kill Marco.
Yeah, he was interrupted by the fact that she tried to grab him and choke him, but he dodged behind Axe, so she choked Axe to death instead. But Marco continued on his rant. It turned her into a wild animal. Several wild animals, actually. She became the alligator of love. And then Jake picks up the joke and says, it's crocodile.
Mm-hmm. And Rachel starts...
Apparently he smirks in a non-Jake way. Do we think that was quick?
Quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, here for that, yes.
Rachel starts morphing because she's getting so upset at Marco that she has like a feather pattern begin to appear on her skin.
Hot.
And Axe uses this as an example. See, the passion and emotion set off the allergic reaction. Marco keeps going. And they eventually get Marco to go over and just watch Tobias hunt, to eat that mouse that he caught because he keeps provoking Rachel.
We do get a perfect line here, and this is really critical for the end of the book, which is, it's so perfect, Marco said, Mighty Xena has a weakness, human emotion. She's a victim of love. So we get that nice Xena the Warrior Princess resonance.
Yeah, always good to get that in there.
Jake tells Rachel, Axe, tell Rachel whatever you can about this Harith thing, get her prepared. He tells her, keep a low profile, don't go to school, forget everything about Jeremy Jason McColl. You just need to stay level, like keep yourself calm.
There's one more thing to that, which is he specifically says, forget about doing the TV show.
That's right.
That's what it was, yes. Yeah.
Whatever you do, don't go on regional television.
Yes.
Yeah, because she had already kind of half concocted this plan of being near Jeremy McColl to save him on this show, and then they were doing this as reconnaissance, and then the whole thing blew up.
Yeah, and Jake kind of says that like it might be too late for him. Like he's probably rushing the process, making him a controller right now. Rachel keeps on the thing like the show's our last chance.
But then Jake cuts her off and is like, yeah, that could be true. It could be our last chance, but frankly, we may have blown it.
Maybe you should have thought about that, Rachel. You're the one who blew the mission today. You're the one who let Visser 3 know we were on to Jeremy Jason. Next time, maybe you'll let the rest of us know when you're not in shape to handle a mission. And of course, Rachel learns her lesson here, right?
Always. Yeah. Lying has never failed her like this before. There's no way she could have seen this coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first time a book's ended under 100 pages.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
But no.
Yeah, she's devastated. She feels so embarrassed. She says she would have argued, but everything Jake was saying was true. Cassie was having trouble looking at her because it was very devastatingly true. And Axe was avoiding all 4 eye contacts. And Tobias tried to console her, which this is the most well, not the most tender thing, but this is probably the most tender to buy. It's not the only tender
This is
thing,
one
but
of
it's
the
probably
most
the
tender
most
things
tender.
to happen in this book for sure.
In this book, between them.
Yeah, it's not quite ruffling his feathers, but it's definitely more than
Right.
we get most of this book.
Or rustling the leaves.
Right.
But he says, hey, don't worry about it, Rachel. It's okay. And then Rachel responds, no, it's not. Just a nice, heavy moment.
Yeah.
I like to think of him thought speak whispering that to her as like the thought speak equivalent of like reaching out and like hooking pinkies with someone to support them.
Oh, that's very, very sweet.
So Rachel's allergic to this crocodile. The child star is, I was going to say hooking up with Visser 3. The child star is
Hanging out on a yacht.
agreeing to get yerked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's in a situation. She has to go on this talk show that with Jeremy Jason McCole, the love of her life. And if her emotions get too involved, she's going to morph.
Yes, I will say she did tell the truth. And then she withheld the truth again because where we
what
find
does she
her,
decide to do after this sudden bout of honesty? Take it away.
they get that info dump about the Harith Illant, which is when
Oh, Miranda
Rachel's
was setting
going-
you up for.
That's okay.
Miranda was teeing you up for something there, bud. It was. Well, she admitted her wrongdoing, and then she immediately started lying.
Oh, I felt the teeing up. I just thought you were like, and now part two.
And
We were making a joke together is what was going to happen there.
No, that was beautiful. It was beautiful to watch. It was like a hippo doing ballet. It was wonderful.
That's how I podcast.
People.
Yeah. But I do think that this is the gasoline on a fire approach. Like, it's just like, if I lie hard enough, the truth will be whatever I want it to be, baby.
That's right, because she's learned about this Harith Illant, this DNA burping of the morph that is going to happen at some point, and then she'll probably have control of her powers again. And so she's like, okay, I fucked everything up with one lie. Surely if I lie about having fixed that, everything will be back to normal. So she's just like, what do? I tell them I did it. That Harith Illant thing. I burped the DNA. And she gives Marco and Jake apparently a riveting and disgusting description. But good thing she didn't have to try to fool Axe.
Yes, he would have asked. Apparently, she later figured out that he would have asked a very obvious question, which this is some great foreshadowing. Axe would have known to ask, so where did the crocodile go after you burped it?
Probably very innocently.
Yeah.
Oh, and so what did you do with the
How
extra
did you
crocodile?
dispose of the crocodile?
I think Axe is a little bit responsible for this entire miscommunication because I think Axe should have done a little bit of follow-up here.
Agreed.
I think we often find ourselves, and maybe particularly in Rachel's books, in situations caused simply by miscommunication. But
I agree with you that like Axe is not the most effective communicator for non-technical people, but we all sat here and read those sentences and it's like, that is basic enough to be on a tax form. Like if you saw that, they'd be like, look, we're locking you up because it said at the bottom of the form that you're going to burp a whole crocodile.
Now, what Rachel says, I don't think she actually tries to cover for this, but I don't think she succeeds. She says, of course, if I tried the full Axe, it wouldn't have worked because, I didn't really know what was going to happen during this DNA burping. None of us had really understood Axe when he had explained it. Once he starts in about zero space, we all just kind of glaze over. There was no mention of zero space.
There was.
Right?
That's true, actually, and crucially, zero space comes last. It's the last thing
He
says.
actually possibly structured the information as good as he possibly
He
could.
tried to account for the fact that they always...
That they wouldn't
They would
listen.
tune out
but
to hear
this is
zero
like,
space.
no,
He didn't realize that it also made them wipe the last 15 seconds of their memory.
Okay, so here's my
next
new...
book, he'll be like, and I'm going to pause here for 15 seconds before saying this next sentence.
We'll get to this, but I'm going to choose to interpret the rest of this book that Axe understood. He shared the information, and then he was like, if they're not going to listen, I'm going to let Rachel and everyone else learn the lesson. Because Axe shows up. He's prepared. at the end of this book, and he takes care of everything. He's kind of the hero of
That's
the book.
true. He really, and he doesn't show up until the exact moment that he saves the day, and he doesn't even announce himself doing it. He just arrives, fixes it, and is done.
Yeah.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
That's way ahead of where we are.
we're done with the
Stand
book.
there. Yeah.
We're done. Rachel's heading to the hotel where her dad is having her stay. She's staying with her dad.
And she's
she takes
taking a taxi
She
from
really loves
school.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very fancy. But she decides to do a quick drive-by of her old house.
Returning
where they've
to
got
the
some
scene of the
capital
crime.
D dumpsters set up. Some big old
Holy
dumpies.
shit, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Big dumpsters. Is dumpsters a brand name?
I think it might be.
Oh my God.
I did not realize that.
Oh my God, I'm looking it up.
We got capital W website in this book and capital D dumpsters.
Originally in the trademark name Dempster Dumpster, applied to mechanically loaded refuse containers produced by the Dempster Brothers Company of Knoxville, Tennessee. There you go. A little bit of history. We are a scholastic
I always walk away
success
from these
story.
books learning something.
It's
you
true.
know?
So Rachel gets back to the hotel, and everything's very frantic from this point forward. Her dad, basically every time he does anything, like it says a little frantically, he says about time a little frantically to her when she walks in. Everything he does, there's a lot of urgency
people
to it.
in show business.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
He's just,
I think he's just trying to-
Shane
He's a
type.
professional. So he tells her they're actually running a little bit behind, right? They're going. The show goes live at 5:00.
Yeah, it's 3:00. She just got here, and he's like, "Where the hell were you?" And she was like, "School." And he was like, "Oh, right, so I have school," which means that he is already checked out as a father, and he moved away like 2 months ago. So I just want to
Well, this is the
I'm
thing.
curious what he's been doing.
I think he's a
his life.
father who thinks of himself as supportive, but would quickly become competitive. Like the fact that Rachel's the star here, like
He both wants her to follow in his footsteps, but
Right.
also he's like, oh, come on,
Fears
you're moving a
being
little quickly
replaced.
here.
Yeah,
Just because
yeah,
you had a
yeah.
house collapse on you.
it doesn't mean you're ready for the Barry and Cindy Sue show.
Have you seen my hair? Do we know that he has an amazing haircut, or do I just imagine?
Oh, I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
I think she said once that his hair is always perfect
That's
and he
right.
always looks tan.
Yeah. Yes. So anyway, they rush to the studio. Her dad asks all the wrong questions for not trying
true.
to make. If he's trying to help her feel prepared, he just starts asking, "Are you nervous? You're really not nervous? You sure you're not nervous?" And it kind of unsettles
You're
her.
not nervous for live TV?
Millions of people
Millions of
watching
people?
Coast to Coast AM, and you're not nervous? And now she's like, yeah, totally. I'm very fucking nervous. I hate
And
this
it's
shit.
important that Rachel not be nervous or experience any
That's
kind of
right.
strong emotion.
But she's focusing a whole lot on not being scared or angry, and in particular angry. And she does admit that she has a bit of a problem with anger. That's going to be the big trouble. But she morphed while looking at pictures of a boy she liked. So like
Yeah.
the fact that boy's going to be there
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
is
if
maybe a problem.
if all it took were the pictures. Then
Right?
it's like, don't put her in the
Imagine how
room
good
with
he
the lad.
smells.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
So Rachel gets to the studio with her dad, and they run into Cassie, who's there as Rachel's guest. Cassie checks in. So we have a plan, right? And Rachel says, "No, we're improvising."
And Cassie does not yes and as well as she could.
No, they don't have a plan, and they don't even know the most crucial piece of information that Rachel has not
Didn't
performed.
burp the crocodile.
Yeah, she didn't burp the crocodile.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
She didn't burp the croc, which it's taking us a long time to say these words. I need to pick up the pace here. Could we say burp croc from now on?
Burp croc?
Just burp
Yeah.
the croc or like
she's
something
got to
like
burp
that.
Croc.
Be the C.
Gotta be the C.
All right. So
So we're improvising, and then a llama comes tearing
this is the
through.
best part of this entire fucking series.
I actually agree, and I am mad that this doesn't pay off
It's in this book.
an arc for Marco that's there from the beginning, because I think they missed such a good opportunity for Marco to have this whole
Right?
B plot.
He could have been on Stupid Pet Tricks.
Yeah.
Yes, that would have been so good.
A llama comes.
Yeah.
I guess this isn't actually Marco's appearance yet, but a llama goes tearing past, and we learn they're sharing the slot. So the show that Rachel's going to be on is
Right.
is
They have
just-
multiple guests.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
And so she's a guest, Jeremy Jason McCole is a guest, and apparently at the top of the show is this guy with animals. He's like some sort of animal
Bart
wrangler.
Jacobs.
Bart Jacobs. Remember that name.
We also see two little zookeepers run past in little khaki outfits chasing after this llama.
Little Steve Irwin's running around.
I thought...
God, I miss him.
Chris Pratt? I keep
Chris
wanting to say
Pratt.
Chris Pratt, the
brothers.
Tapper brothers, but I'm confusing my brothers.
Oh my
so.
God.
Where
Click and
is
clap.
Zaboomafoo?
Yeah, Click and clap, the Tapper brothers.
Marty?
Marty Pratt? Yeah,
Marty
that
and
sounds
Chris
right.
Pratt. So we think, so that's why they're llamas. There's Bart Jacobs is going to be on TV with these exotic animals, right?
Yes.
Do we think this llama is already Marco, or do you think this is the llama that Marco finds? I think it's the
I assumed this was already Marco.
Yeah, I don't know
Because-
why.
What does that llama have? Dainty hooves.
Dainty hooves.
You think
Very
it's
graceful
Visser?
llama.
It could be Visser
Because of
3
Visser.
and a llama morph. He might have been here the whole
There's
time.
3 llamas in this complex. So Bart Jacobs is going first, but Rachel has to go to hair and makeup. Her dad herds her in, and this woman is in there with weird hair and black lipstick, and I like to believe a beret and a cigarette in a long silver engraved holder.
Yeah. Enter Ty.
Enter Ty. And Rachel's dad is like, this is my Rachel. She's on the show. Do the thing. And Ty goes, the skin is beautiful, but I think we want more body in there.
I don't know if it's your characterization, but instantly I'm like, how do they not pick this up?
Yeah.
Rachel's dad is sleeping with Ty.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
I don't know why. It's now, I just have to believe it. I think
Oh
it's
my
like,
But
God.
wait, how is he balancing her with the woman with the clipboard we see him with later?
Oh, no. Clipboard.
It
He's
needs a
cheating
book
on
of its own.
Clipboard Girl.
what's his
No.
name, Joe?
Dan.
Dan? The Dan Chronicles. That's what we get in
Dan Chronicles.
You guys wanna read book 11 again right now?
So, Jake comes face to face with a tribe of people, one of whom is the kid who had pointed the spear at him earlier.
I can't. It's psyching me out right now. Ty starts complaining about Rachel's hair, which is dangerous because she starts making Rachel angry.
You wouldn't like
What
her when
happens
she's
Rachel
angry.
gets angry?
She gets blood horny.
Gray hair.
And yeah, that's right. Her hair starts turning gray because she starts to morph a wolf. And so she's like, look, famous people are outside. And Ty is absolutely a clout chaser, so she's out of there.
Cassie does that.
Yes, Cassie comes
By
up with
saying
the idea. You're
Kevin
right.
Costner's out in the hall. Get out
And
there.
Tom
Tom
Cruise,
Cruise,
too.
too.
Yeah.
And Ty, so predictable. She just screams and goes, where? And runs out the door.
It's also not really conceivable that they would be here.
No.
No.
The llamas could be named Kevin
Here's
Costner.
the thing. That's true. Wow, those are great names for llamas. I'm going to say this. Ty is no Charisse.
Yeah.
No.
Ty's
no,
bedside
no.
manner, horrible.
I think that's why Rachel gets upset, actually.
Yeah.
This could have been a perfect opportunity for Charisse to return.
Oh
That's
my
right.
God. Wouldn't that have been amazing? And then
Charisse
Marco
returns, book
walks
12.
in as a llama and is like,
Yeah.
Charisse is here?
And then she gives the llama a haircut.
That's right.
Yes.
That's the book we deserve.
And then while giving the haircut, she says, I'm going to do something new. I'm going to go really short with you. It's a thing I've been trying with some clients, and I just think
But
it's
only if I
wonderful.
think they can pull it off.
So Cassie learns the truth that Rachel lied, and immediately
And didn't
Ty
burp a
jumps
croc.
back in.
Didn't burp a
No,
croc.
she didn't. No.
Didn't burp the croc.
And
I thought it
now
was just burp croc. She didn't burp croc.
she didn't burp croc. Yeah, thank you. Oh my God, I wasted
Yes.
so much time
You're
trying.
welcome.
Yeah.
You did. And Ty comes back in, is upset that Kevin Costner was not out there. But again, who walks in? But Jeremy Jason McCole?
And if Rachel thought she could contain herself, with Ty being as ridiculous as she is, shit's about to get really, 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 really not fun with Jeremy Jason McCole. He apparently is not fun to work with. He's kind of a tool bag the whole way around.
But do you know what he is? He is the cutest boy on the planet, Rachel
what I've
tells
heard.
us. And he's also massively cute. And it's even better in person is what we get from
And
this.
he's a giver some quality Christian side hugs.
Eddie, you have something highlighted here at the end of the chapter.
Wait, let's get there. Let's build up to it.
Okay.
So JJM, he side hugs. I don't want to talk about it, actually.
Do it. You have to cover this.
I just realized I'm trying to buy time, but Miranda actually did cover everything up to the highlight already. He gives Cassie the side hug, and Rachel won't even shake his hand.
She's barely looking at him. She's trying to remain totally robotic. He's introducing himself, and she's like, "Yes, I am also on today's program."
Yeah, because she says, "Because I have to tell you the truth," something she doesn't do easily.
It's not in character.
Even knowing what he was now, even knowing what kind of person he was, even knowing that inside his head there lived an evil gray yerk slug, if he'd hugged me like he had Cassie, I would have morphed. Big time. And I all I said, Chris, was just, I'm not even touching that. I'm not touching it.
Frankly, I
don't think you have
I don't
to
think
be
you have
honest.
to. I think it pretty much says it all.
I think we've all felt like that about somebody at some point in our life. Beginning of chapter 20, we're in the same scene, and Jeremy Jason McCall is realizing she looks familiar, and that she's the one who fell into the crocodile pit. And she's like, I don't know. And Cassie's like, she also had her house fall on her. And Rachel's like, you are not gassing me up here. You are not a good wingman. That is not something that is going to impress him.
This is what everyone understands to have happened to Rachel, is that the house fell on her. At least that's the story they ran with.
It collapsed,
right? Not that the floor caved in, but that it fell on her. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then, Jeremy Jason runs out of steam. Basically, he's like, I'm done signing autographs. I'm done being nice. And he flips. He just flips. And it's wild because it's like, why did he even bother? What, am I wrong?
He doesn't flip here. No, this is just, look, disaster girl or whatever you are. How about if you and your friends stumble on out of here?
Oh, right.
I need to get made up and I don't need an audience. He doesn't.
He just kind of got an attitude.
Rude.
But he flashed his smile.
I thought that was like a
hey, look, disaster girl, or whatever you are. How about you and your friends stumble on out of here?
Oh, I thought he got weirdly irked.
He's maintaining some level of facade.
You're right, though, because she says that took care of the weird grins, which makes me think that maybe they weren't as happy with that response.
I think he's just being an asshole. He's like, I need to get made up, and I don't need an audience.
But she then says, it pissed Rachel off because she goes, disaster girl, I repeated. Excuse me?
And Cassie goes, stumble on out of here.
We both turned into a llama, right? I'm sorry, I read that wrong. We both looked at the llama. But yeah, so they're outside in the hall. But I just get this impression that whatever it was.
He came off as conceited to them.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right. You're right.
Which really shouldn't be that much of a surprise because of what happened on the yacht. But I guess the hug, being in close proximity when they're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So they're upset about this. They both look at the llama, which has run up to them again.
And Rachel says, if you're waiting to get made up, you can forget about it. You're not a big enough star, Mr. Llama. And the llama
says, maybe not, but I will be someday.
Yeah. Cassie and I yelped. You'd think we of all people would be prepared for strange things like talking llamas. Llamas! But it caught us totally by surprise. Marco, I hissed.
Who else could be this cute? Check out this fur. Check out this little llama smile on my little llama face.
Which is maybe my favorite Marco line yet.
It's really good.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, I don't have them all in front of me, but off the top of my head. And then Marco tells them that, Jake's around here in cockroach morph. Axe is here in fly morph. Marco came in fly morph, but then he saw a llama running loose, which does make me think that was not Marco before. And he thought, hey, why be a bug? And he tells them that he put the real llama in an empty dressing room, which I'm kind of worried about that llama. I hope someone finds it eventually.
Yeah. And he gives them a breakdown of the order for the show, which I think we said already, which is that it's going to be animals, then Jeremy Jason McCall, and then Rachel. And Cassie gives Rachel a stern look, and Rachel gives the floor a stern look. And decidedly doesn't look at Cassie.
Yeah, and Cassie is trying to get Rachel to have good team communication and bring Marco into the fold on what the situation is actually looking like vis-a-vis whether or not she burped the croc. And it's canon. It's in the book, the text.
She didn't burp the croc?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what Marco
Cassie
asks.
says, fine, I'll tell him. And that's when she fills him in. And Rachel's like, I'm fine as long as I don't get excited, which, is always a dangerous game.
Could I ask a quick question about the show order?
Sure.
Is Rachel, I thought she was making the local news, but she's making the national news,
So
right?
it seems like this talk show has gone on tour. She said, or goes on tour. She said they'd be in town this week earlier in the book.
Oh.
So yes, I think it is like national, but I think it's like luck that she wound up on the show.
I don't really understand it, to be quite honest. Like, I don't have a clear conception of how...
If they have a segment where they feature like a local news story, I just don't think she would be like the third act. It's kind of strange that it's not Jeremy Jason McCall going last.
Like, why would you put the weakest thing at the end? Yeah.
Well, it's a pretty exciting story.
Well,
actually,
it's
Chris.
the local story, so the local crowd might be really excited.
It makes more sense too why she only has to do one story and that's it, because she's actually getting national coverage. Yeah, broad coverage. Yeah, exactly.
That does make more sense. It is.
These
like
are the questions we ask on it.
Yeah, the thing I can't wrap my head around is like how. So like I don't really know how television worked in this, but it sounds like a major network show. And it sounds like they're...
I would think of it as like Regis and Kelly on tour.
Yeah, that's what I would guess too.
But then what do they do when they go on tour? Do they book theaters or do they book like local affiliate studios?
They probably book local affiliate stations and then
I feel
always do a local interest story from
I guess,
each place they go. Would be my guess.
Is it a live show? Is that something they say?
Yes.
It is a live show. Okay. It's still
so.
weird to me that they put the local interest story last. I was thinking if they were just taping it, maybe they just circulate
shuffled
that.
It. Yeah.
Maybe you're right, but I think it's live.
It makes more sense. It raises the stakes if it's live. It's the second time we've had a live broadcast because we also had
the live commercial with Price Polly.
Okay, so they catch Marco up. Marco says, Rachel, I'm supposed to be the irresponsible one, which, Chris, you point out that I don't know if that tracks for Marco's. I think Marco might actually be one of the more careful ones.
It's true. I think
maybe it's his image. It's his brand.
I will say that he is diplomatic enough. Like, he's being very diplomatic in saying that is how I feel about it. It's not
he's having a great time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. Because Cassie then comes up with an idea that he thinks is just very intriguing. She's like, well, the important thing is that Rachel can't be seen in morph. So we just have to make sure there's always at least one Rachel.
This is like the craziest fucking thing. And this was like when we were talking about whether or not this book slapped, like this was the concept that I was like, this is so big that they're either going to never do this again or it's going to change everything about the Animorphs for the rest of our lives.
We should say what it is, but I think it's the former because I don't think the book treats it like this major thing that's happened.
I haven't read anything more than this book, so right now it's changing my life. I'm going out into the world and pawing people's arms saying, I'm going to morph you.
So what this thing is that Chris is talking about is that Cassie says, I think we need a copy of you. And then once Marco leaves, and he has a very cute moment where he's shouting, I'm going to be on TV. I'm going to be on TV. Is that
and I imagine him doing a little llama dance.
I hear TV.
And his little llama head swaying on the long neck.
And we, the readers, Rachel, are distracted by Marco's adorable song. And Cassie, who's been waiting for this opportunity for 12 books, she's been plotting this. She just lays out her hand on Rachel. Rachel asks, what are you doing? And Cassie begins acquiring Rachel's morph.
Yeah, Rachel goes kind of dreamy.
Let's make it clear. Not Rachel's, not a morph of Rachel's, because it just gets a little confusing.
That's right.
She's acquiring Rachel's DNA to morph.
This is part of the reason. This is one of the many reasons this book upsets me so much. What did Cassie wrestle with for all of book 4?
That's why she got it out of the way in book 4.
The consent thing?
Well, because she morphed a whale. She's already okay with this. She's already worked through all of that. Yeah, she morphed
a whale in
in the Megamorphs.
But isn't it different when it's your human friend, your best friend?
No.
Maybe it's less creepy when it's your best friend.
Yeah. Eddie, you're saying you wouldn't morph me?
You're saying
Not
you're
without
best
your
friends?
I just think, Cassie sold me on the idea that, and she didn't actually, but that receiving consent for acquiring a morph is very important.
To her, at least, it seems to be true, but she just says, don't worry, I'll never use your morph for anything bad. And then puts her into a trance.
Yeah.
Can't you imagine in a different book this getting like a whole chapter long treatment though?
Yeah, but instead Rachel just says, don't do it unless you have to. It gives me the willies. I mean, jeez.
Yeah.
But I think there's also just the reality of Rachel's volatileness. She's unpredictable enough that I think Cassie is this is how we're solving the problem. I don't have time. You've misbehaved enough.
Yeah, we're going to try to avoid doing this, but we need this as a backup plan, and it can't be done last minute. So we're doing it now.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing that's just really, really strange about it is we knew it was technically possible with acts.
Morphing Jake.
And yet, yeah, and also creating his human morph.
Human morph.
Okay, you're right. It's not new, but it feels like a tectonic shift to me. It's just the fact.
And we've seen an Andalite morph a human. We've never seen an Andalite morph another Andalite. We've never seen
there's some
morphing another member of your own species is not something we've seen before, so it is new in that sense. And also, Axe doesn't have any of the hang-ups that Cassie has about morphing sentient creatures as far as we know.
Right, because as long as they're not Andalites, they're dirt to him.
They're beneath you, yeah. If we can now morph other people, are we just going to start morphing adults to do adult things?
It is a real slippery plot slope here.
No, it could make it's you wouldn't have to have the toddlers stacked on each other's shoulders. That's a Megamorph's plot.
Yeah, it's a Megamorph's plot right there.
We all have to morph our parents for a week.
Oh, that would help them actually a lot if they could do that. They could
sign their own permission slips. There you go. We made the same joke, Ed. That's funny.
Yeah, we did.
All right, so Cassie's got her Rachel morph. They're not worried about having to use it right now because they're just hoping it's not going to come to that. And suddenly a woman with a clipboard woman.
Oh, I love her.
Is just shouting. She's like, "Hey, you, the fallen girl, come here." I don't think she has that kind of accent, but
I'm not even sure what kind of accent that was. It's 3 accents in one.
It was drunk,
but it is accurate. I think it is.
Yeah, I think that's her character. Can you? Yeah.
She gives her a quick rundown. So okay, listen up. We're desperately late. You go on the last segment.
Oh my God, she's really drunk.
You walk across stage, Barry will shake your hand.
Well, she just found out about Ty, so.
Then Cindy Sue will shake your hand unless she's in a snit. Then you sit. Don't worry about which camera to look at. Just look at Barry and Cindy Sue. Barry and Cindy Sue will ask you all about his alligator stuff.
Rachel points out.
You tell him your little story. If Barry does this with his hand, that means speed up. If he does this with his hand, it means wrap it up because we've done got it good. Nothing to worry about.
Oh my God.
Who are you? She asks of Cassie.
Totally sober suddenly.
Cassie, who are you? Cassie's like, I'm fallen girl's partner, dropping chick, citing an inside joke that clipboard woman was not around for.
No, she just called her fallen girl. She says, hey, you fallen girl.
Damn it, I'm the drunk one.
And she's like, yeah, one come ever. Yeah, one come ever.
It's really good.
A little too in character.
Yeah.
Our green room can't be used. We had some band on the show last week and they trashed the place.
Their name.
And she's yanking her by her arm, which apparently would have normally made Rachel mad, but she's got a handle on it. She's putting a lid on it.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, and we do have Bart Jacobs off to the side here, the animal guy. He is smoking a cigarette, so I do think it's possible that Ty also was. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, At least until next time. See you soon.